Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Resilience Talk with Brad Neufeld. We have an awesome show for you today. It's our mission here at Resilience Talk to increase resiliency in individuals, to strengthen families, and also to better our communities. And so everything we talk about here is directed towards that. And today we're going to talk about our schools, because we know with everything going on in the political environment, our schools are being attacked right now. There's so many what ifs, or what we should do. And so I brought Sylvia Fisk on today. Sylvia is very passionate about this. So Sylvia, I know that you and we talk off camera all the time about this very subject.
Yes,
and the other day when we were kind of talking a little bit, we decided, you know what, let's do a show on this, because I'm passionate about it as well. As my audience knows, I've worked with at-risk teenagers for over 30 years. And so let's get into it, because I know, again, I see the political environment across the country, and I see how things are different here in Utah versus back east somewhere in New York, Washington, D.C., and California. How do you feel about them maybe on a federal level or on a national level trying to make everything so the same? Is that a good place to start?
More government outreach.
Yeah. Do you think they're just trying to control everything?
Well, of course. My concern, and usually I'm very quiet because I don't like to, cause conflict.
Mm-hmm. I know you don't. I know you.
I want people to think. I
Yeah.
want them to stop relying on Facebook and the internet and social media. And when I see things like this, I can't be quiet. Even though they're conservative, it's a person I support who is running for office. She posted this and highlighted, it says, but it's not you doing the fighting, it's your child. This is about public schools. Mm-hmm. And this is a quote by Matt Walsh. I don't know who he is.
Okay.
And he says, but it's not you doing the fighting, it's your child, and he cannot win. You are sending them on a suicide mission. Get them out. Let the system collapse and die. And I'm like, first of all, why are you listening to somebody that you don't know? Mm-hmm. And that sounds so drastic. Let the system collapse of schools. Mm-hmm. They are very passionate, and her platform is on homeschooling. And I don't know, in society now with two-parent families, both parents need to work.
Absolutely.
So who's going to be teaching the children? Oh, I'll be gone while I go do my 4-hour shift. Look this up on the internet. Mm-hmm. Do your homework.
Yeah.
My problem that I have with that is children need to get away from the internet.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. They're not researching anymore. They're just, let me look this up on. It's so funny how you can
Google,
find anything.
And Google is everything to them. All they do is look it up in Google, and they think that that's the answer to everything. Most people don't understand. You brought up a very good point the other day with Wikipedia.
Yes.
Most people and most parents out there don't know that Wikipedia is basically anybody can get on there and change what's on there.
They can change it. They can add their opinions. They're the ones that are making Wikipedia. It's not research.
Right.
Like our old encyclopedias, when we wanted to look something up, to do a report in school, we had to get a lot of books out, look up things, research it, find out different points of view. Now you just get on Wikipedia and they believe that's gospel.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, again, we've lost I'm trying to think of the word for it, conformity, if you want to put it that way. It just seems like with all of history, all of things that we used to call facts are now just jumbled. Somebody else's opinion is taken over, and they've just put that in there. So again, it's about what to believe. And I know we talk a lot of resilience here about the truth. What is the truth? Things have been getting very confusing. So where do we start? How do we fix this?
I've noticed that a lot of ideas and information from, I would say, from 40 and younger isn't from experience. It's not from actual knowledge. When you ask people, old people like us, we know because we've lived through wars. We've lived through watching how society is changing, and
How presidents have changed.
Yes,
how
and when I'm
leadership,
when I'm leaving a comment or a post, it's because it's something I've actually experienced. I'm not looking it up.
yeah.
And some of the things they're posting, I'm like, how do you know this? For instance, somebody posted something about how horrible Hitler Youth was. And the thing is, I have friends from Germany. They're old. They were in Hitler Youth, and they had nothing bad to say about that organization. And so when I tried to tell them, no, it wasn't like that. They taught social skills. They taught the children how to cook. They taught them how to dance. They taught them service. And the stuff they cooked, they would take to the elderly. And we likened it to, in our LDS culture, what we had as mutual.
Yes.
The good deeds we'd do. And so when I tell people that, they're like, "Oh no, it was about teaching them to fight." And I'm like, "No, that was the SS.
That was the SS. Correct.
That was not Hitler Youth."
Right.
And so it just is funny when you offer up information like that, you get blasted. And I'm like, well, I got my information from somebody who was in Hitler Youth. So it's funny.
Yeah, because, well, just talking about Hitler here, because, we were raised to, okay, he was a tyrant. He was a mean guy. He was a murderer. That's how we came to know him. And then all of a sudden the concept got introduced of, well, he had a rough childhood. And so therefore he was trying to do what he thought was best in his eyes to make his country a better place. No, the guy was evil. Okay.
And that's the problem, is people are always trying to make excuses for bad behavior.
Right.
Or for why they are the way they are. You know what? We've all had hard lives.
Yes, we have.
We did.
Yep. And am I mad at some people from my, during my life? Absolutely. But do I want to go make sure they die and punish, and all that? No.
Well, after reading that and my speaking out about homeschooling, and I said, I am watching, because I have 6 children, I have 18 grandchildren. I am watching the difference of these generations. And I'm like, these children don't know how to handle conflict. And you and I, when we were little, our parents weren't hovering over us, and they weren't checking to see what we were doing all the time. We were left to our own defenses.
Yeah.
And we suffered the consequences many times, even if it was just a skinned knee or a divorce.
Yeah.
It wasn't the end of the world. And now parents, I have noticed, like with my children, as they've been parents, they're a little more like me, but parents of their age are so protective. And
yeah, I've noticed that.
I'm like, just leave them alone. My kids were all ready to get out of the house by the time, in fact, my daughter, she left home when she was 17. They were all ready to be on their own because I'm like, I'm not giving you everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, I was a single parent.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and when you're a single parent, well, did you feel like you were more protective over your kids? You obviously were saying, well, no, you needed to. Was it hard for you to give them that space to learn?
It actually wasn't.
Wasn't? Okay.
Because of the way I was. My parents sent me to a boarding school when I was just 14 in a country where I didn't even speak the language.
Right.
My mother is Mexican. Her first language is Spanish. My parents spoke Spanish, but I didn't really learn the language until we lived in Mexico when I was 13. And so we went to school to learn Spanish, and then my dad said, well, there's a boarding school in Mexico City, thousands of miles away, and I think you guys should go. So he sent my sister and I there, and she complained about being homesick, and so my dad ended up letting her come home, and I was left there, and I resented that for a while. But when I was older, I said, Dad, why did you leave me there? And he said, I knew you could do it because you're strong. You're like me. And the thing is, being at a boarding school, I had to have an allowance. So I learned how to budget.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to take care of what I had. I was in charge of buying, as teenagers, feminine products. And it's so primitive down in 50 years ago. Girls didn't use protection. They used toilet paper. I was like, oh,
Ugh.
yes. But see, these are things I learned. I was doing my laundry with the old wringer washers because that's what they had. But you get a 13, 14-year-old child now. Do you think they would know how to do that?
Nope.
No. So as a single parent, I just thought, well, I did it, so my kids were going to have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So they all learned to cook.
But Mom, my friends don't have to do that.
Oh, well, they have a mom and a dad.
Yes. Oh, too
Yep.
funny. Well, let's get back to what Matt Walsh was talking about, because this is a big thing. And I see it in the news. I see it on talk shows that, yeah, there's a lot of people out there that are angry with the school system because of the various curriculums that have been, people have been trying to introduce, the CRT, I don't even want to name them all. However, parents are concerned. And so where Matt Walsh just said, just let it burn down. Well, Sylvia, as I was talking to you the other day, you know how passionate I am about this. Parents come to me, or people in general come to me all the time with the problem, okay? But they never offer a solution. And that's what's so frustrating for me. Okay, burn it down. But then what? Okay, homeschool. Not everybody can homeschool. I mean, let's just look at the facts. Not everybody can.
And
they
you
don't
know
have
what?
the money. They don't have the time. They can't.
Exactly.
They can't sacrifice one of their incomes in order to do it.
So where are they going to get their information?
So the internet. Here we go again. What you're passionate about. You know, letting the internet teach everybody everything. And so that's one of the things I would like to start with our show here. Let this not just be a one-time thing. Let's get feedback from parents. Let's how can we improve it?
Yes.
Let's get your ideas and everything out there. And I know there's people will just throw little things out there. Well, we need to teach more history. Great. But are we just going to teach history? I mean, there's a lot to this education process.
Where are they going to get their history without encyclopedias or people's firsthand?
Absolutely. And so, but let's start that dialogue. How should we do it? So let's just start with that. If we had a chance to burn it all down and start all over, what would we do?
Basics.
Basics. Yeah, of course. That's where we'd start. That's what I would think.
Math.
Let's get back to basics.
History.
Science. But then science is there's so much that we have to talk about, don't we? So what do we do? Where do we start? Well, what do you see some of the issues when you're talking to parents out there? What are they saying? Are they saying burn it down? Or are they saying let's help improve it? Or what are they saying?
They want to jump on the homeschooling bandwagon, and I don't care for. I am more for public schools or charter schools. I know some teachers that are charter school teachers. They probably are a little bit better constructed organizationally, but what I think is concerning is that children are not learning social skills, and they're being protected from conflict solving and problems. Some parents complain, well, I don't want my child to be bullied. Well, guess what? What is your child going to do when he gets a job after he finishes college and he's bullied on that level? What's going to happen? I was bullied ever since I can remember. I was picked on by older sisters and treated horribly when I went to kindergarten.
Yeah, me too.
That was where I first learned racism, was that.
Yeah, because I would tell my story. It was being raised in California. I'd just be walking down the road. Next thing you know, I'm surrounded by 5 or 6 guys, and they're like, "What'd you call me?" "I didn't call you anything." And they'd beat the crap out of me and leave me there. And I'm like, "Oh, 1 on 6. That's just great. That's just great. Yeah, you're real tough." And so, but yeah, I got when I was younger, in order to cope with that, I got really good at running.
Yes.
Every time I would see something, but no kid should have to live with that. So again. But to your point, though, that was a decision that my wife and I had to make, because, again, at the time when our kids were in school, there were some things then that we didn't agree with, and we're like, okay, pull them out, but then what? And I was just so concerned about the social skills, the kids getting that I finally just said, honey, as much as we don't want them to hear the things that are there, bottom line, they're going to hear it in the world, whether we're there in the future or not. So,
and even when we were in school, what was it we were told? Oh, if your children aren't experiencing whatever, Playboy magazines. They're going to go to their neighbors and look at it.
Right.
So the thing is, parents' responsibility is to teach them the values, the morals that they will take with them throughout their lives and teach their children. Because the values and morals and religion, being a Christian, teaching about God or whatever religion you have, that's up to the parent to teach their children.
Mm-hmm.
So when they are confronted with something that's controversial in school, they can use their wisdom. I did it. When I had a teacher who would diss the Mormon church, it bothered me. I'm like, why does he say that? This has nothing to do with English. And so when he would slide in his little personal opinions about different subjects, I had enough values taught to me at home that I thought, I don't trust him. I don't believe him. Mm-hmm. And we have to trust our children to do that too. Mm-hmm. We're not going to protect them from bad things in life.
No.
You know, if that was the point for the Christian-based faith people, if that was what God wanted, he would have left Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
You know, but he said, no.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to know. And he gave them a choice. He didn't wait till they were ready. Mm-hmm. He just let them go.
Right. Well, let's take a break here really quick, and when we come back, let's talk about that a little bit more. Because again, that's what we're here to do, is resolve issues, to get some answers. Okay. And not just let this stuff. I know other parents out there that are listening to this have the same questions that you and I do. So, so again, let's stop here for a quick break, and we're going to come right back. My guest today is Sylvia Fisk, and we're discussing our school system and what we can do to improve it. So, we'll be back right after this break. Hello, my friends. This is Brad Neufeld, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Resilience Talk Network. You can listen to my show, Resilience, every morning, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. On my show, we will be discussing what it takes for you to overcome the day-to-day challenges that all of us face in life, as well as some of the devastating ones that may lead us to feelings of hopelessness and despair. It's my goal to provide you with the tools and skills that you need to overcome anything that is thrown your way. To find out more about my show, visit our website at www.resiliencetalk.com. That's www.resiliencetalk.com. And as always, until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.
Welcome to the Resilience Talk Network. My name is Jay Walter, and I'm the host of Rebuilding, heard every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. You can listen in and learn how to face your fears, overcome obstacles, and make dreams a reality. So listen every weekday night from 6 to 7 p.m. right here on the Resilience Talk Network.
All right, everybody, we're back here on Resilience Talk with my guest today, Sylvia Fisk, and we're discussing our schools today and what we can do to improve them, maybe a few of the challenges that are there. We've talked it over back and forth here, and neither one of us agree with the concept of Matt Walsh that we talked about, burn down the schools and start all over again. We don't agree with that. But there are ways that we as parents can come together and bring these ideas, or our ideas rather, to the schools to maybe improve them a little bit. So,
you know what's important too is that each region, each state, each area has different cultures.
They do have different cultures, different challenges.
We're such a big country. You know, here in Utah we have the LDS Church. In the South, it's very Baptist, very Christian, and it's, you know, they think we're not Christian. Mm-hmm. And then it just depends on the area and what they feel their students need. And I don't know. They always talk about Utah Mormons, and I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in LA, and in Mexico, and it's different.
Yeah.
Definitely a different culture here in Utah.
Yeah, and so there's adjustments that need to be made along the lines there. Also,
And
like
I wonder if that has something to do with such a strong support for homeschooling. I think they're a little too overprotective.
Yeah. Because, again, back to the homeschooling thing, yes, you protect your kids from violence and from some of those things that you don't want them to hear. However, they're going to go back out into society. And I have a family that I worked with early on where I saw that was the case, where they just totally protected their kids from everybody. And, I mean, it was to the extreme. So I want to make sure people understand that it was to the extreme. They wouldn't let them play with friends. They wouldn't just totally. And I just finally had to tell this family, no, your kid is going to commit suicide. They're going to, because they won't be able to handle everything. You can't be there for them all 100, all 80 of their years or whatever. And so that's going to happen. And unfortunately, I was right about that. When he got to be 22, 23 years old, he took his life because he didn't know how to handle anything. So you have to find the balance. And it's like I mentioned to you during the break here, Sylvia, this is where parents come involved. I will never override a mother's intuition. I will never suggest that. And so, keep in contact with your kids, make sure they're safe, but you got to let them experience things. You got to let them stub their toe every now and then.
Well, you've got to let them experience life. I mean, isn't that what, it wasn't enough for God to tell Adam and Eve, if you eat that fruit, you're going to die.
Yeah.
To her, to them, it's like, to die. What does
What
that even mean?
Exactly. What does it mean? Right.
Human nature.
Yep.
Okay, I'll do it anyway.
Right. So anyway, so let's again bring up some more ideas on. I know you get all kinds of different people who say, "Well, we need to put prayer back in school." I'm a believer of that, but then how do you make both sides approve of that? Because you have your ones that no, I want no religion, absolutely no religion in our schools, and to me, prayer is a form of religion, so therefore, we don't.
The thing is, that is teaching children how to be understanding of different cultures. If they're not Christian and don't want to pray, they still need to learn respect for other people's feelings.
Good point.
If you don't believe in prayer, then just sit quietly while somebody who does believe in prayer prays. Yeah. So that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody's going to want to do what you want to.
Right.
We have to learn to be flexible and understanding. It's how we learn compassion and patience. We in this society of instant gratification, we are not learning patience. We don't know what it is to wait anymore. And another thing, social skill, is people are texting instead of conversing with each other. We can't hear the meaning and the intent of what we want to say to someone. If you read, I was messaging with a group and they said, why was I always negative and bitter? And I said, you don't know me to make that assumption.
Yeah. And
so I said, well, I'll just start recording what I'm saying. I'm teaching you. I want you to learn and know this is how I feel about this. I'm not being negative. It sounds like you're ignorant and you just don't know. So that's what I'm giving you. I'm giving you information. And if you want, why are we hiding here on Messenger in this little group?
Yeah.
If it's not to talk about sensitive stuff. So.
Yeah, and there's two sides to this. I'm going to pick on my youngest son because this is just a recent thing where he'll send me a text from somebody that he got, one of his friends and stuff. And Dad, what does he mean when he says this? And I fire back to him, I don't know unless I heard the conjecture in his voice. I don't know what he meant by that. And that frustrates him so bad. Well, how will I know? Pick up the phone and call him and ask him what he meant by it. Is that is that such a hard thing to do?
I think communication skills is really going down. When I was in my 20s, I always thought, if something bothers me, I want them to know and understand. But I also want to know why that person's doing something. there's so much assuming. I had this family member. She would always hint at what she wanted, and I said, you know what? Tell me what you want. Just ask me. Don't hint or beat around the bush. I don't like that. I don't like game playing. Be honest. Be open. Get your intent out there. But people get offended.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Society.
Yeah.
It's just, they're getting so offended.
Yeah, because, and again, I have enough years on me to see what you're seeing as well, because, again, parents are scared to call parents out on things because they're afraid of the retribution, and trust me, I'm going to look in the camera, we get it, we understand, and that's why we're here. We're your ally. We're wanting to help figure these things out, because I know of no teacher that didn't get into teaching for the right reasons, meaning they wanted to help, they wanted to give back, they wanted to be that person that made a difference in a young person's life.
Right.
And yet here comes all the red tape that they're under, and being told from somebody, I'm going to say it, back in Washington, D.C., what to teach here in Utah. And so, again, at some point...
That's a different country in Washington, D.C.
Right. And so at some point, we're going to get into this in a very heavy way and give our ideas. But for right now, we just want to gather some thoughts from the parents to see what we can do to make this happen.
Well, my background is I've been a teacher, a music teacher, since I was in high school. And my parents were both school teachers. My dad was an administrator in the Jordan School District. So education was very important. My dad was a fourth grade teacher at my elementary school. And so I was really under the gun to be a good student. But I wasn't, because I didn't like math. I don't like math. I never learned algebra because back when I was in high school, that wasn't required. Basic math, general English, general biology, all just the basics. That's all we needed to graduate. And so I didn't like math. I never learned really how to do algebra, and I just don't like it.
Yeah.
Don't like it.
Yeah. Well, and like most kids, they don't, because I'll tell kids this, I'll give them this example. And anyway, this might be off topic here, but when kids, all the teenagers I've worked with, over 3,000 of them individually over my career, and when they understood why they were being taught what they were, it made the biggest difference in the world. Because it's like this, they'd say, I hate algebra, I don't get it. Why do I need to know that? There's never anywhere I'm going to go that I need to know algebra. And I said, well, hold on just a second. Yeah. Don't you understand that your brain actually works in algebraic equations? And they're like, what do you mean by that? I'll say, okay, so let's say we're here in Salt Lake. I'll say, all right, how long does it take you to get from here to St. George, Utah? And you can see them stop and pause and look up, and it takes about 3 hours and 58 minutes. Okay, let me tell you what your brain just did. Okay,
algebra.
That just did algebra. It thought, okay, it's going to take me X amount of time to get from here to my car, from my car out onto the freeway, and then I'm gonna be able to go 70 miles an hour from here until I get south of Payson or wherever it turns to 80 miles an hour, and then it does it in little fragments. That's your X plus X squared plus all. It's all laid out there. I said, that's how your brain works. And when I tell them that, you should see it, their eyes light up and go, oh, I didn't know that. I says, yes, it's all about problem solving. That's what it is.
Well, when I reached out to some school teachers two of my children are school teachers, 3 actually, and some friends that are school teachers. And I asked them some of their concerns and the benefits, and each one stressed that it was the social interaction. It didn't have anything to do with academics, math and English. It was about the social aspect. That's my concern. Because you can learn to be really good at math, but if your child doesn't know how to stop a bully before it gets out of hand, that's the difference. It's life and death. We're keeping our children from problem solving. And one of my friends said that the students aren't just learning from teachers. If in public schools, they are able to learn from the administrators, they're able to learn from the school nurses, they're able to learn from the lunch crew, from the janitors. And what is it our children can learn from each of these? how to treat them with respect.
Yes.
Because people will look down their noses at the janitor. They don't realize that that job is probably just as important.
It is.
As
Absolutely.
a principal. I mean, you need to have a clean building. I don't know. I'm kind of a clean person.
Well, yeah, but most people are. I'm sure most mothers out there
Yeah.
would be saying, "Yeah, go Sylvia."
But when you have order, when you have clean organization, you're able to function. You're able to process better. So when my kids would have messy rooms, I'm like, how can you think in here? My room was always clean growing up.
Yeah. Yep.
Because I liked it. I just
Yeah.
felt like I thought better.
Yep.
But you were talking about algebra. In music, everything is math. And I didn't realize that growing up. I just knew I hated math, but I loved to play the piano. I've been playing since I was 5. And when I got ready to audition for the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, they had us take a music theory test. And it was the first time I really had to study. And by then, I was already a licensed commercial pilot, multi-engine. All of that could have been easier because you have to take FAA written tests for that. All of that interpolation and figuring, weights and fuel, how much you need, that's all math. And it could have been easier if I did know algebra. But when I was studying the music theory, I realized that all those little black notes had a value, and it was all about math.
Fractions.
And once I got it,
Fractions.
Once I got it, I'm like, wow, now I can look at a piece of music and know exactly how the rhythm's supposed to go. When before that, I was just like, oh, I got to hear it first.
Yeah. I got to hear it 1st, and all I see is a bunch of black there. I don't know what that means.
Yes. Well, I knew how to read the notes. I just didn't really understand the value
Yeah.
until I had to learn the theory. And
Good point.
I didn't have a teacher.
Right.
They just gave us the book, and I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
got to study. I don't know.
But well, again, very, very good point. So, what else? What are some of the things that with the bullying? I mean, what can we do to fix that? Because let me just start by saying what I would always tell the kids. Because there's just this overriding theme in every high school I've seen across America. You don't tattletale. You don't rat on anybody. 'Cause
You know
if
what?
you do,
I did.
Yeah, I know.
There's a line. There's a line that should not be crossed.
Right.
And I was riding the school bus. I was in 8th grade, and I went from being very popular because my dad was a school teacher in elementary to nobody knowing me in junior high, and I didn't realize I was from the Mormon homely, group. And I didn't wear mini skirts. I didn't have boyfriend. I didn't, I obeyed my parents.
Sounds like you grew up in the 70s.
And so when I had to ride the bus, kids would target you. I didn't know how to speak for myself. I didn't know how to not be a doormat. I just thought, wow, these kids are mean. And I remember one point I had to go to the back of the bus where all the popular boys were.
Yeah.
And back then we wore skirts. We didn't get to wear pants.
Yeah.
I grew up not owning a pair of pants till I was a teenager. But they had a lighter and they were trying to start my skirt on fire.
Oh.
And they were calling me the most awful things. I didn't really understand what they were because I was very, very innocent. And so I tried to tell my mother, and she said, oh, just ignore it. Just don't call attention to yourself. And I felt in danger. And the next day, getting on the bus, they tried tricks like that again.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, this isn't right. So I went and told on them to the vice principal. They couldn't ride the school bus, and they got really angry with me.
Yeah.
And so I got targeted, and I just stood up to them and I said, I don't care. You're not supposed to have a lighter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you're not supposed to be starting girls' skirts on fire. And so I don't know. And if there's a line that is crossed, I will tell.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's wrong. And that's the thing, they say the that good people do nothing. I'm not one of those.
Right. No, you're not. I know that. I know that about you. So definitely that's something we can explore on methods to do that. Because again, I understand the kid's position. I've been there too. I was, and I would go home and, sometimes at home I would hear stuff like, well, you're probably doing something to egg them on. Otherwise they wouldn't be messing with you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I'm not. I'm doing nothing. I'm just existing. And so it didn't help that was, what I'd heard from my parents and my older brothers and sisters and everything. That didn't help a bit, because then that made me even more scared to go to school.
Yes.
And so again, to me, it's something that needs to be talked about, something that needs to be brought to the attention, because nobody deserves to go to school and get bullied. Nobody.
No.
Yeah, because I was bullied in younger school, but then when I went back, when I moved to Alabama, and started playing football and stuff, and started getting a little more confident. Yeah, then I started fighting back, because then I had my confidence by then.
Yes.
But again, I understand what a lot of kids go through. But if parents, if your kids come to you with that, listen to them.
Yes.
And do something about it. Don't just let it continue on.
Well, I think one thing I have noticed that parents don't talk about, and the danger that I have seen, one of my daughters, my daughter-in-law, she teaches digital literacy.
Okay.
And she has a saying on her wall. She says, you have more power at your fingertips than generations before. And she understands the dangers that are online. She will have parents approach her and say, well, are you teaching my children that the do's and don'ts? And she said, no, that's your job.
Yeah.
You're the parent. I'm teaching them how to access, how they will use this in their lives.
Okay.
But the dangers, just like sex education, that's up to the parents.
Yeah.
If you don't want your children online looking up smut, then you need to teach them.
Right.
Because you know what? They're going to.
Yep.
They're going to.
Yep.
Nobody's talking about the dangers of the internet.
Yeah.
And right now, it's killing our children, literally. With Snapchat and TikTok, they're able to access illicit drugs, and it's poison.
And cyberbullying, as they call it too, on social media and things like that.
Causing suicides.
Yeah, because I know we've talked about this openly, and we've got the opinion on many levels. Well, here's what's so hard with the social media stuff. It can be so good, if it's used that way. But then when it's used in a mean or in a negative way, then it's damning. Let's just say what it is.
Well, look at Facebook. I mean, when I first got on it, I don't know. Electronics kind of. Ugh.
Yeah.
Give me a paper and a pencil, like here.
I still use my yellow pad.
I don't have a laptop to bring here and access. I write it all down. But see, that's the difference. I'll research it. I'll learn it. If I want to know about something, I will find out, and it's not going to always be the internet. I want to go to people who have that experience. I want to hear their opinions, because the way I see, like Hitler Youth, the way I feel about it, it's not how someone else feels about it. But they're entitled to feel
absolutely
that way.
Yeah.
It's just, get all your facts right. This is what my firsthand experience about Hitler Youth is. And when I post it, I'm giving them information. I'm not trying to get them to change their mind. I just want them to understand there's more to it than it was Hitler teaching kids how to kill.
Yeah.
It wasn't that at all.
Right.
So, I don't know. Everybody can learn something from each other.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, let's take one more quick break here. When we come back, we'll let you know what you can do to get involved in our mission and our purpose here to increase, get our better things in our school. Oh well, I'll come up with the words. Anyway, everybody feel what I'm saying and not hear the words. Anyway, it's all good. But anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Do you know someone who's gambling with death due to an addiction? Do you know someone whose life is being turned upside down due to a loved one that's battling with addiction? Hi, I'm Al Richards. I am the host of the Other Side of Addiction podcast. I started the podcast due to my wife's battle with alcohol. Let's just say I became addicted to her addiction. Our podcast is helping people understand a little more about those who have battled addiction and those who are hurting from their addiction. Through raw vulnerability, we share stories that help uncover the root causes of addiction. Shame felt on both sides, matter of the conscious and subconscious mind, continued beliefs, and often confusing paths of recovery. We collaborate with real people and their stories, as well as licensed professionals, to help our audience gain a better understanding of addiction. You can find us on Resilience Talk Network. You can also find us on Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. That's Facebook at Mr. Al Richards. You can also find us on YouTube. Just look up the Other Side of Addiction podcast.
All right, and welcome back. Our guest today is Sylvia Fisk. We're discussing things that's happening in our school system right now and what we can do to make it better. But I want to point this out first of all. We understand that everything that we've talked about today and brought up can be its own show. We brought up so many different topics, and trust me, we plan on doing other shows specifically tailored towards each one of these subjects we're bringing up. But before we get out of here today, we want to bring up a little bit about isolation with our kids, maybe some type of discrimination and how that's happening in our schools right now and what we can do about that.
Well, when we were growing up, we had this stigma that we could only play with, in Utah, in the LDS community, we could only play with other Mormon children. And I know that was a big issue for the children that weren't LDS. Yeah. And now that they're adults, they really spoke out against us for doing that. And my parents weren't like that, Well, of course, I was always different anyway in Utah. But I've noticed that that's making it's rearing its little ugly head again in the form of, well, let's support LDS schools now. And I had a little discussion with a Facebook friend about how she wants just her children to be in an LDS school with LDS children. And I said, no. We got in trouble for that 40 years ago. Yeah. That's wrong. And she continued to discuss with me. I won't say argue. Yeah. And I had to let her know, that is discrimination. You can't isolate your kids from society that way. It's, to me, as a Christian, LDS, believing in God, that is not God's purpose. Yep. That's in heaven.
Yeah, that's right.
We're here on earth to learn about ourselves and people.
Well, and work together with all kinds of people. I mean, that's I know that from my religious background as well, that's what we're here for. We're here to learn how to work with others. And I'm going to be talking about this quite heavily in another show where, bottom line, people need people. And some of the people that aren't necessarily of your faith have things that you're going to need, different skill sets and different ideas you're going to need to get through many of the things that you go through in life.
Yes.
And so, therefore, it's important to get to know everybody, as many people as you can. That's just, of course, my view, but I'm pretty, strong with that view. So
I'm pretty open to learning new things, and I just think it's important for students to learn basic social skills, because they're not.
And that's my view, Sylvia, is that's the most important thing in school, is the social aspect.
Yes.
And again, I'm still looking for answers on this cyber and social bullying and all this stuff, because it just seems like it's natural for kids to get in their own little groups and in their own little cliques and then attack another one. And as much as we talk about these things, it seems like nothing ever changes.
Yes.
So where does that responsibility lie? Is it on the school, or is it with the parents? Is it a combination of both? Is it a third party that needs to come in and do, preach about that or whatever you want to say. But anyway, I mean, that's definitely a discussion that I would like, because again, I consider myself an anti-bully. You know me by now. I know we've only known each other for a short period of time, but I'm a Papa Bear. My friends, I'm going to protect you. That's just who I am. My kids, I'm going to protect them. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And so, because again, I've been bullied and never again. It's not happening. But
no, I don't. I remember in 6th grade, I had this really good friend, and somebody, talking about the discrimination. I remember somebody saying she's Catholic, and I was like, okay, what is that?
Yes.
So I thought, well, I'll go to her house, and she was just a normal child like me, and so I told my dad she's Catholic.
Yeah.
And he said, So?
Yeah, right.
So I don't care what anybody's religion is. I don't.
Nope. Because again, we all have different talents, we all have different skills, and we can work together. And I look at it this way: we all have enough in common with each other as human beings that we can start there,
Yes.
and work with that, so to speak.
Well, in being segregated and discriminated is something I've grown up with all my life, and I don't. It's not just one race or one color. It's all of them. In high school, we had the big Chicano movement.
Yeah.
And we got excused from high school to go to the U and this Chicano conference. And the talks, because of my upbringing, my parents' values, when I heard these speakers, I thought, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
And so it bothered me, and I asked my dad, why are Chicanos so white? Am I a Chicano first? What is that? And he looked at me and he said, you are a child of God first. And you know who you are. I don't have to tell you, because I've been teaching you who you are all your life. And so that was it. He just said, you're a daughter of God.
Right.
That was that. And so I felt better, because I'm like, I don't want to be a Chicano.
No, I want to be.
I want to be me.
Me, right? Exactly. I know when because being raised in Alabama I guess it was in junior high, in 8th grade, we were actually segregated down there. We had the white school and we had the black school.
Yeah.
And they had just started introducing this program where some of us would be bussed over to the black school.
Integration.
Black would be, come back over. And because I was sitting there going, this is stupid. Why can't we just all be together, kind of thing? And then when I first when I was bussed over to the black school, I sat on one side of the room there, and the teacher told me, oh no, all the whites need to sit on this side of the room. And I'm like, well, then why are we even doing this? Because it was half the blacks on one side, half the whites on the other. And I was like, this makes absolutely no sense. And so I was a little bit of a rebel, and I befriended a few of I had some really good friends there, and I would go on the black side and sit there, and the teacher would get so mad at me, and it's like
That would be me too.
yeah, you're a rebel just like
care.
me. Well, it was like, what's the point, And then finally, my 9th grade year, well, actually my sophomore year that I was there, we finally brought all the schools together, and that was a big adjustment and everything. And I was just. Anyway, so in one way, I'm glad I got to see that, because it supports what you're talking about there. And in a way, it's still happening. And it's just like, can't we all just, who's telling these kids that they have to be in separate groups?
To love each
Who's
other.
telling them?
Well, my dad, he was a mission president and had to oversee missionaries in Mexico. But as an educator, I remember him always, and not just saying it, he showed it. But he told his missionaries as well as other teachers, before you can teach someone, you have to try to love them. And it wasn't just something my dad said. He lived it. I saw it in him, and he loved his students. And in a way, that taught me to be accepting and how to love others that I wasn't related to. Meeting strangers, learning how to love them, and understanding and having compassion. That's what I learned from my parents, and from being in school, out in society. Is you have to always try to see the good in people. Everybody has a story.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sylvia, is there anything else you'd like to bring up today? I mean, we're not done. We're not done with this by any means. This is just the beginning of some great things
Yes.
I think we're going to see. So
Food for thought.
food for thought. There
Yes.
we go. All right.
We'll go-
Well, thank you so
we'll do
much.
another.
Fist bump. There we go. Bingo. We're going to do this. All right, everybody. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to our show today. Our guest today, Sylvia Fisk, and we've been discussing our schools and what we can do to get better. And as I said at the beginning of this segment, every one of these topics we brought up today, we're going to have a single show on, and there'll be other ones too. But we'd like your comments as well, because we want you to be part of this process here. Be sure and leave us a note. If you're looking at this on Facebook, leave us a note. Also, subscribe to our channel at Resilience Talk Network. And also, if you're on Facebook, please leave us a like and a note there, too, on what you would like to see happen here, because we're going to be bringing in all kinds of guests, aren't we, Sylvia?
Yes.
We're going to bring in experts from all over the world to try to tackle these topics here. So you can also email us at info@resiliencetalk.com. That's info@resiliencetalk.com. Or you can call me directly, 435-830-6945. Once again, 435-830-6945. So until we meet again, go for everything that you want in life and make it happen.